everyone, welcome to part 2 of the intermediate guide to the charge blades. Do check out part 1 on how to play the weapon and all its commands if you haven't already. For you to see most of what you have learned in part 1 in motion, here's some charge blade gameplay. I will narrate what this player is doing. Let's focus on how he incorporates the various combos. Double slashes into a red gauge and he does the advanced shield charge combo. This was performed in under 3 seconds. Let's watch that again. Store, shield thrust, AED stance, infuse, boom, red shield. And he should be charging up for more files now. Red and store. He's now ready for an SAED. He gets into axe mode. And boom, a lot of damage. So he should be looking to repeat this process. Instead of going for a second SAED, he decides to charge his shield again. So he's got to get 5 files in again before his second SAED. Double slashes into store, back to sword and move out the way, and transition to axe. Repositioning here, playing safe, he does regular axe mode attacks, KOing the gyros and finally an SAED. Head break. Timer is running out, so he casts his special that's a ton of damage. Nice evade here, back in sword mode, and sword mode slashes finishes the great gyros off. What you've watched is not easy to pull off consistently, which brings me to my next topic, how to approach learning the charge blade. I'd like to preface by saying that the weapon having many different moves only mean that it is inherently a versatile weapon, with different ways to play for achieving very similar results. I'd like to reassure you that your fantastic charge blade gameplay is going to look different from another's. For example, this player that takes down a 10-star Puke only performing AEDs. Elemental setup, of course. Whether you're using guard, shield thrust, getting that red shield icon for SAED, or simply tapping your yellow button, it truly does not matter as long as you find what is comfortable for you. Playing this weapon in a way that is comfortable is the true win, as it becomes sustainable. Once it's sustainable, you will inevitably become a master of the weapon and may even be able to situationally incorporate all its movesets. So here's some advice for what matters the most, is that you do not get hit. Mastering the combos will come with time as you become more comfortable. If you get hit, you use up your potions and you get to practice less. And you also don't complete your hunt. So attention, if you're using your main account to learn the charge blade, learn one combo at a time, slowly. Do not try to perform every single move in a single hunt. You will falter. This weapon has a steep learning curve. To make the process of learning easier, you could start up an alt account for you to have an additional 5 potions every day for practice. But this is not necessary, so long as you always try not to get hit. You can even wear Divine Blessing to halve the amount of potions you would otherwise be consuming, or practice on monsters that you can at least take 3 to 4 hits from. Here's a practice mode setup that runs max points in Divine Blessing. I am first and foremost a bow main, but recently I've picked up the longsword. I personally use a Divine Blessing 5 set myself for the longsword when I'm practicing. It has saved me a ton of potions. I still use it sometimes when I'm studying monster attack patterns or trying to push my limits. You won't be dealing much damage with this, but this is practice mode. With that being said, I'd like to address the contention regarding whether or not SAED is worth all the charging up your shield palaver. In short, yes, but you probably won't be consistent with it. Hear me out. In order to gain a good understanding of what we're dealing with, I tested the moves out, placed them side by side, and compared the damage numbers. I conducted multiple tests both on raw and elemental setups. For the setup running Elemental Attack 5, after adding up all the hits from the axe and explosions, I found that SAED did 31% more damage than AED. For the raw setup, I found that SAED did 30% more damage than AED. So we can conclude that SAED roughly deals 30% more damage than AED. But then, that didn't tell me whether this 30% more damage is worth all the time taken to charge your shield up. So, to answer just how much time can you spend getting a red shield to make casting an SAED worth your while, we have to look at it a different way. We know that charging a shield with 5 files makes it last for 42 seconds. So basically, we'd have to get that red shield buff in under 30% of 42 seconds. So that comes down to 12.6 seconds. We have 12.6 seconds to break even. The breakpoint to make it truly worth your while is to be able to charge your red shield in, let's be a little strict, under 10 seconds. Only then, the 30% damage will be worth your effort. Now, you might be wondering, is it even possible to get a red shield in under 10 seconds? The answer is yes, of course. As long as you incorporate the shield thrust combo, you should be able to do it well under 10 seconds. If you need a demonstration, it's all there in part 1 of this guide. Other reasons to put in effort for your SAED is that upon landing a good hit, that you will deal an explosive amount of burst that can break a part immediately. Or KO if you're on a raw setup. If it's not enough, then a follow-up SP could do the trick by then. But not so fast. I have an important distinction to make, so you might want to pay attention here. I don't want to confuse you guys that have tried to do research and scoured through online forums. I also want to highlight certain caveats of the SAED. You may have seen this comparison by Sunny, demonstrating that SAED does 20% more damage than AED, 10% less than what I had just mentioned. The reason for that is that in Sunny's gameplay, the initial wide slash swing was not included. And due to Kulu's head being tiny, the ground slash was missing from the SAED. So it only demonstrates the overhead slash. When you perform your SAED, you should be landing 3 initial blows: the wide slash, overhead slash, and ground slash. 3 numbers should appear along with your explosion numbers. That being said, this actually teaches a very important lesson about the SAED. It's that you really need to land all your initial blows to guarantee the higher damage than a regular AED and make it worth your while. This is the first caveat of the SAED. The second one is that if the monster is tiny or you strike a small body part, you may not land all your explosions and only land like 3 or 4 of them. It's happened to me often when I play back my gameplay and notice that I did not get all hits in. Ideally, you should be getting 5 explosions for a discharge with 5 files. 1 file, 1 explosion. So don't stress too much and remember what I said earlier about just not getting hit. Performing just an AED for the whole hunt should help you arrive at roughly the same result. It's that you don't need to go out your way to get a red gauge. Store all 5 files in, only to infuse everything into your shield. Rather, look at the situation and spend some of those charges into regular axe attacks and AED. If you happen to have 2 files left, either left over or earned from a perfect evade or perfect guard, go ahead to infuse that into your shield, after which it would make sense for you to charge up maximum files to release an SAED before your red shield runs out. About 15 seconds. Alright, so this is what I have for addressing the question of whether SAED is worth it. Again, the short answer is yes, but you may not always be consistent with it. Before we get into the build recommendations, I'd like to talk a bit more about the rationale. You will see stats stacking, critical eye, some weakness exploit, and quick work. Lock-on won't always be included as it doesn't seem to be crucial for the charge blades to deal damage, but I will be including it as it is still helpful for targeting a part break or tail cut. Quick work is also optional, but the weapon is going to be a lot more fluid if you did run it. An extremely nice QOL skill. Here's a demonstration of quick work 1, 2, and 3. Additionally, after testing, I was able to confirm that explosions will draw power from both raw and elemental attack boosting skills. They, however, are not affected by crit or negative affinity, so they won't be affected by your points in critical eye. That being said, do keep in mind that about 70 to 80% of your damage will come from regular sword and shield attacks paired with axe swings, which will be affected by affinity, so critical eye and weakness exploits are still worthy skills to run. I won't be covering situational setups that will cost HP, like resentment or heroics. I also won't be going through builds that include special skills like offensive guard, as they are highly dependent on risk-taking and the individual. We also won't be incorporating limiting skills like special boost. If you absolutely want to try those skills out, check out mhn.quest to find an armor combination that suits you. It's really easy. If you need a tutorial, check this video out. These are sets for regular gameplay and daily use that will guarantee you consistent results. Recommended raw build. This build will give you total skills of critical eye 4, weakness exploit 2, quick work 2, and a lock-on. It also has a nice side of burst 2. This can contribute to DPS if you manage to activate it, though it is not easy to keep up, so understand it as a sub-skill. Here's an alternative raw build that trades in lock-on and the burst for max levels in quick work. This build will give you total skills of critical eye 4, weakness exploit 2, and quick work 3. It's heavy on Odogaron gears, so keep on that grind, especially during this period of spawn up. Next, if you often find yourself using the advanced shortcut combos, then quick work may be a little bit less valuable to you. So you can go for the standard setup instead, that trades all points in quick work for 1 more point in critical eye. It also has a nice side of burst too, just like in the recommended setup. But if you're a beginner or learning the weapon, make your life easier and throw in some quick work. Remember that the weapon is already hard hitting, so you can afford the 1 less point in critical eye. For raw weapon choices, the Black Diablo's Charge Blades will give you the most effective raw power, followed by the Diablos, Odogaron, and then Iron Ore Charge Blades. Do note that all these raw weapons come with impact type files that can deal KO damage when you discharge. So if it interests you, maybe throw in some Slugger to guarantee a quicker KO. Recommended fire setup. You will get total skills of Fire 5, weakness exploit 2, and lock on. Let's look at an alternative set that lets you run some quick work. In this alternative set, you will get Fire 5 and Quick Work 2. You won't be running points in critical eye or have a lock-on. If this is a little underwhelming to you, then you can sacrifice 1 point in fire attack for a lock-on by swapping out your Rathalos coil for a Black Diablo's coil. However, do not trade in points in elemental attack for critical eye. The affinity will not give you more damage, unless you're talking about other skills that increase your attack power, like burst, resentment, heroics, or situational skills like special boost. For fire weapon choices, strangely, the Rathalos has highest effective power at max grade. To be specific, 116 more attack points than Azure Rathalos. But the Azure Rathalos Charge Blade comes with 1 point in special boost at grade 8. I suppose that is why there is this difference. This sort of makes it an easy choice though. I know the Azure Rathalos Charge Blade looks real cool, but you should be picking the Rathalos one. Recommended water setup. In this recommended set, you will get Water 5, Critical Eye 3, and Lock On. There is an alternative set that lets you run some quick work. Here's the alternative set if you swap out the Kulu helm for a grade 6 Odo helm. You will not be running lock-on here, but if you absolutely want to run lock-on, you may sacrifice 2 points in critical eye from your pink Radiant coil for lock-on with the Black Diablo's coil. So that's up to you. For water weapon choices, the obvious choice would be the Duratoda's weapon over the Jagras, so go for that. Recommended Thunder setup. The recommended Thunder set comes with a nice side of burst, giving you Thunder 5, Weakness Exploit 2, Critical Eye 1, and Lock On. Let's look at an alternative set that lets you fit in some quick work. Again, swapping out your Kulu helm for the Odo helm. You will not be running Lock On here. For Thunder weapon choices, the Zinogre is superior, so try to go for that. Recommended Eyes Setup. In this recommended build, you will get Eyes 5, Critical Eye 3, and Lock On. Let's look at an alternative build that lets you run some quick work. Again, swapping out your Kulu helm for a grade 6 Odo helm. You will not be running Lock On here. For ice weapon choices, the Legiana Charge Blade is superior to the Barioth, so try to go for that. The recommended Dragon set is kinda stacked. Dragon 5, Critical Eye 1, and Special Boost 2. Your special is going to be a lot more explosive than normal. For weapon choices, unfortunately there is only the Devil Joe to pick from. Let's look at an alternative setup that lets you fit in some quick work. In this setup, you will be running Dragon 5, Quick Work 2, and Special Boost 2. You won't be running Lock On here. That's all I have for elemental sets. Status weapon choices. The Charge Blades don't have a sleep weapon, but has a paralysis weapon using Gyros. If you want to be a support type player in your multiplayer hunts, then this is a great option. I have a couple friends using the Gyros Paralysis SNS, running the new status Sneak Attack skill, and it has proven to be extremely effective, paralyzing monsters 2 to 3 times in a single hunt. The paralysis weapon comes with impact type files, so expect to be paralyzing and KOing the monster. So here's a special paralysis build. You'll be running total skills of Status Sneak Attack 4, Paralysis Attack 2, and Lock On. Do note that you will mostly need to be locked onto the monster's tail for the Status Sneak Attack skill to work, as it will increase the buildup of your paralysis attacks only through attacks from behind. Lastly, poison weapon choices, we have the Raytheon and Pink Raytheon Charge Blades. Pink Raytheon should be the better choice here for poison, but I'm not able to verify how effective this is compared to just going for the Black Diablo's Charge Blade. I don't think it's a terrible option either, since it will do well against poison weak monsters, like the newly released Devil Joe being one of them. But regular elemental weapons should do the trick too. For build, simply run the recommended raw setup from earlier. I must also add that poison weapons can be extremely handy in multiplayer, especially if you're getting carried. Check this short video out that I did a while ago where I show you how effective poison can be if you're a leecher. For the poison proc rate, I suspect that it might have a similar activation rate to Sword and Shield or slightly slower. So maybe like the hammer. Alright guys, that's all from me for the Charge Blades. Again, all infographics can be found in the description box or at the link in my profile. If you found this helpful, please leave a like or say hi in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye bye!